Welcome to the Deep Dive. Where we take a stack of documents, fascinating ones, might I add, and we pull out the really important stuff, the things you need to know. It's all thanks to you, our listeners, who provide these documents, and, well, you're getting a shortcut to being in the know. Especially on this case. It's a legal saga, really, one that's been going on for almost a decade.
Yeah, a decade. You've given us a lot to work with. Legal documents, court orders. We've even got filings, meeting transcripts, correspondence. There are even chat logs in here.
Chat logs. And we're diving deep into it all. Retrenched estate constables, the EPA, that's the State Police Association, the Special Tribunal, and a fight for justice that just seems to drag on and on.
It does drag on.
But hey, we're not going to bore you with dry legal jargon. We're going to uncover the key events, the surprises, the stuff that makes you go, wait, what?
Exactly.
And really what this whole thing tells us about how institutions work or don't work and how they affect people's lives. You ready to unpack this?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's rewind back to 2014. That's where this story starts.
2014, 42 estate constables, they got retrenched from RBC-RBTT. The EPA, the State Police Association, they step in, right? They promise to represent these officers.
Sounds good so far, right? But right off the bat, there's this potential misstep, and it's a big one. It seems the case was registered with the Ministry of Labor as just dismissal.
Yeah.
But a lot of people believe it should have been registered as wrongful dismissal due to redundancy. Now, I know. It sounds like a technicality.
A small detail.
But this little detail might have seriously hurt the officers' chances from the very beginning. It might have limited their options for getting justice. The documents, they point to the registration happening around May 16th, 2014, which was the day the officers were let go. Or maybe it was a bit later that year.
You see, this starting point, this categorization, it really could have shaped the whole legal fight. If the main issue was redundancy, like the jobs were just not needed anymore, then the legal arguments, the solutions, they'd be very different from a regular dismissal.
It makes you wonder about the quality of representation those officers got early on, right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of representation, that brings us to Harrison Thompson. He was the EPA's Industrial Relations Officer. He comes in, and it's like he's given all the power to handle this case. The EPA Executive Board, they kind of step back, let him take the reins.
Yeah, they pretty much handed it over to him. And you provided this recording of the meeting, and it's pretty revealing. Thompson, he says straight up that he negotiated directly with RBC Royal Bank.
Wait, so he negotiated with a bank?
Directly, yeah.
And did he talk to the officers he was representing?
He says in the recording that he didn't consult them.
Whoa, hold on. He's negotiating for 42 people and doesn't even bother to find out what they want or need. That's wild. And there's another detail that just adds to the mess. It seems only 14 out of those 42 officers actually agreed to have Thompson represent them initially.
Yeah, just 14.
But he went ahead and registered all 42 anyway. It's like he was representing people who hadn't even given him the okay to do so.
Makes you question the whole process, right? The EPA, their responsibility to their members. How can you say you represent someone when they haven't clearly said, yes, you speak for me?
Right. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
So we've got this case possibly already in a bad spot because of how it was registered. Now it moves to the Special Tribunal. April 5, 2015, the first hearing. And the chairman, what does he say?
The chairman, he tells the EPA, go negotiate with RBC.
Okay, straightforward enough. But then
it seems like they just ignored the chairman.
Ignored him.
Completely. Plus, there were delays, excuses from the tribunal itself, and years went by with practically no progress on the case.
Years. Wow. So May 15, 2018, the case takes a turn.
Yeah.
And not a good one. We have the verbatim notes right here. And they show the tribunal dismiss the case. Their reason. No jurisdiction.
No jurisdiction.
Which means they basically said, we don't have the power to hear this. The chairman actually said, having heard senior counsel for the bank and advocate for the association, we rule that we have no jurisdiction in this matter and it is hereby dismissed. And that was that, right? Case closed.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But hold on, there's more. Because later, when the case goes to the High Court, a brand new reason for dismissal pops up. No branch board.
Hold on, no branch board. Where did that come from?
Nowhere. It was never mentioned at the tribunal's dismissal. They just pulled this new reason out of thin air.
So they changed their story. That's not exactly confidence-inspiring, is it? And there's something else in those verbatim notes. The chairman, he told the EPA to go back to the bank for negotiations. Remember that instruction he gave earlier?
Right, the one they ignored.
That one. But guess what? That crucial bit of information was left out of Harrison Thompson's affidavit. An affidavit, by the way, is a sworn statement used as evidence in court.
So key information's missing from the official record. Plus, the tribunal had said, restart this case within 2 weeks after that first dismissal. But that didn't happen. The whole thing at the tribunal level, it's just a mess of inconsistencies.
A mess. Okay, let's move on to the High Court. 2018 to 2021. The EPA hires this attorney, Clay Hackett, and they file all these affidavits. But here's where it gets even trickier. The information in some of these affidavits, particularly Thompson's, well, it's being questioned.
Yeah, it's being questioned a lot. He's giving wrong information, like about what the chairman said during the tribunal hearings and even the dates of those hearings.
And Hackett, the lawyer, it seems he filed at least one affidavit April 30, 2018, without checking the verbatim notes from the tribunal. He just took Thompson's word for it, and as we've seen, Thompson's memory isn't exactly reliable. What do you think about that? A lawyer filing stuff without double-checking the facts.
Not good. It's like, you're in court, you gotta have your facts straight. Relying on someone's memory instead of checking the official record, that's a recipe for disaster. And get this, even after the EPA got those verbatim notes, they never corrected the mistakes in those affidavits. They just left those errors hanging.
So, the case is full of inaccuracies, and no one's bothering to fix them.
Yeah.
Great. Then we're at the appeal court, 2021 to 2022. And here comes a real head-scratcher. The special tribunal, the one whose conduct is already under scrutiny, they decide to appeal to the Privy Council.
They appealed.
Yep, to the Privy Council.
Yeah.
That's the highest court of appeal for some countries. And guess what? January 22, 2022, the Attorney General approves the appeal. Why would the AG okay an appeal from a tribunal that's already being questioned? It's just another layer of complication in this whole saga.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right, we're finally at the Privy Council, 2022 to 2024. You'd think the highest court, things would move quickly. Nope.
Yeah.
2 years. 2 years before the case was even scheduled for a hearing.
2 years. It's a long time, even for these types of cases. And there's speculation that the special tribunal might have been dragging their feet on purpose. Maybe they didn't submit the record of appeal on time. Some AI analysis of your documents even hints at that.
AI's on the case now, huh?
Yeah.
Fascinating. So the Privy Council finally makes its ruling in 2024.
Yeah.
Document 2024 UKPC 13. And they did not hold back. They criticized the tribunal's behavior, said a new panel should hear the case if possible. And one of their key findings was that the special tribunal's argument that it is not subject to judicial review is fundamentally flawed. There was no basis for an appeal, and the case should not have proceeded this far. Judicial review basically means the courts can check if public bodies are acting lawfully.
Right, checks and balances.
Exactly. And the Privy Council went even further. They called the special tribunal's appeal manifestly bad, said it shouldn't have been allowed in the first place.
That's a pretty strong statement from the highest court. It's like they're saying, you messed up big time. And to make things even more twisted, the special tribunal goes and argues before the Privy Council that the officer's case should have been thrown out because there was no branch board. Remember that reason that appeared out of nowhere?
The one they never mentioned before.
It's that one. They're using it again, even after the Privy Council basically told them their whole appeal was bogus.
So you've got the highest court saying, new panel, new hearing. Seems pretty clear, right? But the story's not over. The documents show that the chairman, the very one criticized by the Privy Council, he's still involved.
Still involved, but the Privy Council said.
I know. It's like they're ignoring the highest court's ruling. And it gets worse. There are claims that the EPA won't let the officers change their legal representation. The officers want a new lawyer, but the EPA is saying no. Doesn't seem very fair, does it?
Not at all. If the people you're supposed to be representing say, we don't trust this lawyer, you'd think the organization would listen, right?
You'd think so. And there's another character in this whole saga, Robert Ramatar. He's an estate constable. It was him who brought Harrison Thompson into the picture. He collected money from the officers, acted as a go-between, and he seems to have had a lot of sway over how the case went.
A lot of influence.
And he didn't even have an official role or anything. The sources raised some serious questions about him. Was he in cahoots with Thompson? Or did he just completely fail to look out for the officers?
It's suspicious for sure.
Then we have Victor Sandy. He's another state constable who's been trying to get those verbatim notes we keep talking about. He wants to see what really happened at those tribunal hearings.
Just transparency, right?
Exactly. But the special tribunal keeps blocking him. They even said the whole matter was sealed when he asked for the notes. Why would they hide public records?
It does make you wonder.
Right. And here's a really serious allegation. It's claimed that the EPA tried to pull the wool over the Privy Council's eyes. They allegedly misrepresented what happened at those first tribunal hearings. That's a huge deal.
A huge deal. Lying to the highest court. That's serious legal trouble.
So where are we now? Well, it's still a legal mess. The EPA has to apply for that new hearing the Privy Council ordered, and the industrial court needs to put together a whole new panel.
Right. Fresh start.
But with all the problems and delays, who knows what will happen next? And we can't forget about the Attorney General. He approved the special tribunal's appeal, the one the Privy Council slammed. Was that even legal?
Good question.
And here's where you, our listener, come in. The documents show that you've actually drawn up a formal agreement with one of the officers. This officer can't afford a lawyer, so you're stepping up to cover their legal costs.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It shows just how badly these officers have been affected by this whole ordeal.
It does. And you're not stopping there. It seems you're putting together a legal petition. You're naming names. Harrison Thompson, Robert Ramatar, Clay Hackett, the chairman, the Attorney General, the EPA, even RBC.
Wow, that's a long list.
Misfeasance, negligence, collusion, breaches of fiduciary duty. You're looking into it all.
Holding people accountable.
You got it. And to build a strong case, you're creating individual files for each defendant, outlining the evidence and the allegations against them.
Organized and thorough.
That's the plan. And there's talk of a report, maybe even a book, to expose this whole decade of injustice, focusing on Harrison Thompson and Robert Ramatar, the alleged deception, the whole 9 yards. But you're smart. You're including a disclaimer in any media releases to avoid any defamation issues. You're making it clear that everything is based on public records and legal findings.
That's the responsible way to do it.
Absolutely. So to sum up this deep dive, we've got potential wrongdoing from the start, possible lies to the courts, endless delays, and a fight for justice that just won't quit, even after the highest court weighed in.
Yeah.
What a story, right?
It's unbelievable. This case shows how things can go wrong, how the system can fail people. All these procedural problems, the alleged misconduct, it's all just obstacles in the path of justice.
And that's the question for you, dear listener. What does this case tell us about our justice system? Is it fair? Is it accessible to everyone? And when the system fails, what can people do?
Big questions.
Big questions indeed. We encourage you to dig deeper into those media reports you gave us and maybe even look up some of the legal stuff we talked about. This case is a wake-up call. It shows why it's so important to investigate, check the facts, think critically.
Exactly.
And that's the deep dive. We help you get informed. We reveal the hidden stuff, all thanks to you and the documents you provide.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for being here.